We spend a lot of time thinking about what's in our food, right? The calories, the protein, the vitamins, the spices. But what if the most powerful ingredients were totally invisible? Today, we're diving into an ancient philosophy that suggests our food is connected to our consciousness in ways you have probably never even considered.
We've all heard some version of "you are what you eat." It's an idea that just makes sense, no matter where you're from. But the philosophy we're exploring today? Well, it takes that concept to a completely different level. Just let that sink in for a second. It's a pretty radical idea, isn't it? That the entire story of a meal, from the ethics of the money that bought it to the mood of the person who cooked it, actually gets served up on your plate and absorbed right into your being.
So let's peel back the layers here. According to this ancient way of thinking, food isn't just stuff. It's not just matter. It's more like a vessel, carrying these invisible ingredients and energies that we can't see or measure or even taste.
The core idea here is that food absorbs something called sanskars, which are basically subtle impressions or vibrations. Think of it almost like a sponge or a recording device. It soaks up the energy from the earth, from the hands that picked it, and maybe most importantly, from every single step of its journey to your plate.
And this is where that whole "you are what you eat" idea goes way beyond just biology and enters the world of ethics. The source material claims that if food is bought with money that was earned dishonestly or cruelly, that negative energy is literally served on your plate and transferred directly to you. To make this point, the source tells this absolutely startling story. A very spiritual man started having his meditations completely shattered by these visions of a distraught young girl. He couldn't figure it out until he learned that a feast he had recently attended was paid for by the host selling his own daughter. The claim is that the sorrow and the sin of that act were literally baked into the food he ate.
And it doesn't just stop with the money. Not at all. The mental and emotional state of the person cooking is seen as a primary ingredient. So if someone is cooking while they're angry or sad or resentful, those vibrations are believed to infuse the entire meal.
Get this, there's another incredible story from the text that drives this point home. A prisoner on death row, who was actually known for being pretty calm, suddenly started having these horrific visions of murdering his own mother. It turned out his regular cook had been swapped with an inmate who was serving a life sentence for that exact crime. As soon as the original cook came back, the prisoner's visions completely stopped. Wild, right?
Okay, so if our food can be sort of contaminated by these invisible forces, what's the fix? Well, the source presents this ancient household practice that's designed to purify a meal before anyone ever takes a bite.
It's called the Balivaishva Yagya, and it's actually a pretty simple daily ritual. Before anyone in the family eats, the person who cooked takes a tiny portion of the fresh food, usually 5 small morsels, and offers them to a small sacred fire.
Now, this act of offering is believed to do something really profound. It transforms the food from just, dinner into what's known as prasad, which means it's a sacred, blessed offering. The idea is that any of those negative energies, any faults or doshas, are essentially burned away, leaving the food spiritually pure for the family.
And at its core, this isn't just about some ancient superstition. It's about a fundamental shift in how you see the world. What this ritual does is it forces a moment of real humility. It's a daily reminder that the food on our table isn't something we just own. It's a gift from a vast, interconnected web of life.
But why 5 offerings? Why that specific number? Well, as we're about to see, each of those little morsels is like a symbolic thank you note, and each one is addressed to a different part of creation that made the meal possible in the first place. So, the first offering is for the creator force itself. The second is for the devas, the cosmic energies like the sun, the wind, the rain that helped it grow. The third offering acknowledges the rishis, the ancient sages who gave us wisdom. The fourth is for all of humanity, our community, our guests. And the fifth and final offering is for all other living beings, from the tiniest insect to the birds in the sky. Think about that, which is 5 tiny pieces of food. The simple act of cooking becomes something much bigger. The kitchen is transformed from just a room in the house into this connection point, a place where the family consciously says thank you to the entire cosmos before they sit down to eat.
Now, according to the text, this is way more than just a nice symbolic gesture. It's actually credited with creating some very real, very tangible positive changes inside the home.
The source shares some really powerful stories.
In one, a woman is told to perform this Balivaishva ritual and then serve the blessed food, the prasad, to her husband who was struggling with alcoholism. The story goes that within 6 months, his addiction was gone. In another case, a family that was completely torn apart by a nasty inheritance fight finds peace and comes back together after this practice is started in their home.
And this quote just says it all. It's from the head of a huge 75-member joint family. And he says it straight up. The secret to their family's harmony, their unity, isn't just good communication. It's this daily ritual of gratitude happening in their kitchen.
So what do we do with all this? How does an ancient fire ritual have anything to do with our modern lives, especially if this isn't our specific tradition? Well, just look at this comparison. On the left, you've got unconscious eating. That's when food is just fuel, right? You're eating while scrolling on your phone, distracted, just trying to get it done. But on the right, that's conscious eating. And that's really the heart of the Balivaishva Yagya. It reframes food as a gift. The goal isn't just to finish, it's to connect. The whole thing is done with intention.
So here's the bottom line. You don't have to follow this exact ritual to get the universal message behind it. And that message is that every single meal we eat is an opportunity. It's a chance to just pause, to feel grateful, and to recognize our connection to the huge world that keeps us alive.
And that kind of leaves us with one final question to think about. You don't need a sacred fire in your kitchen to apply this wisdom. The main ingredient here is intention. So the question is, how can we, in our own way, at our own tables, turn our next meal from just a simple act of eating into a real moment of connection?